I am just trying to go live. I hope I am. Just also simultaneously trying to load the video. Hello. Hi Preeti. So I take it you can see me and you can hear me. Let me know. Okay, great. So I am visible and audible, I hope. Preeti says yes. So I'm gonna... Oh, you're Pallavi. Sorry, your name says Preeti here, so I thought your name is also Preeti. I'm Shree. I'm an English educator for grades 11 and 12. I've done a couple of videos so far. All of them have been pre-recorded because I had some technical difficulties and some internet issues and things like that, but everything got fixed just in time for our weekly revision. Today we're going to be doing a quiz. Oh, that's your mother's name. Okay. So today we're going to be doing a quiz, and it's going to be a Menti quiz. Maybe more people will join us today, or maybe Pallavi it will just be you and me. But either way, that's okay, because you can do the quiz, and then anyone who's watching this later can sort of just revise using the questions that you and I do together. Anyway, while we maybe wait for some more people to possibly join us, I'm just gonna take us through a couple of things. And first things first, this is the code for the Menti quiz. I don't know if you know how to get onto the Menti website and use the quiz. You might have already done this before, because I know a lot of the other educators do this a lot, so you might have more experience in this than I do. But just in case you don't, you basically go to menti.com and this page will appear in which there'll be like one blank, and you can just type in like this code. So it's 57536345, and the code will keep appearing like as we go from page to page. And what will happen is the quiz will open up in front of you, and while you're hopefully getting that done, and if you have any questions about it, then ask me in the chat and I will reply to you. But while you're getting that done, I'll keep talking and then we'll start the quiz. Does that sound okay? Okay. I just want to let you know, in case you don't already have the Unacademy app, that it's on Google Play. You can it's on Google Play or it's on the Apple App Store, and you can download it and you can try a bunch of features for free. If you like, you can also use my code, that's THAR01, and that will give you a flat 10% discount on the Unacademy subscription features if you want to get an Unacademy Plus subscription. Bunch of extra things that you will get access to, such as all the classes, a lot of extra study material in PDF form, a bunch of practice tests and live tests and things like that. So that's something that you could try out if you're interested in that. These are the usual prices for Unacademy Plus. As you can see, the costs kind of reduce on a per month basis the longer that you take the subscription for. So that's something to keep in mind. There's also something called Unacademy Iconic. It's individual mentoring, one-on-one education, and a person that you basically kind of can access and ask doubts to, and you'll get weekly reports on your progress, and your parents can also contact educators and figure out how you're doing. So it's kind of like focused all on you education. So if you're looking for something like that, then Unacademy Iconic is what you're looking for. And again, these are the prices, and the per month costs vary again. And as you can see, again, it's very different. Whoever the durations that you take it for decides the price, and the per month cost is very different for, say, 18 months as compared to like 6 months. So that's something you can pay attention to when going in for an Unacademy Iconic subscription. These are all things I wanted to let you know, while you are hopefully also getting into the Menti quiz that we're going to do for the day. One last thing is that there is an offer that's currently going on where you can basically get a flat 10% discount on the subscriptions. So it's for Plus and Iconic. So this is the time for you to get a subscription, basically. Yes. And let me just take us back to our quiz details. Yeah. This is the link for our quiz, the code for our quiz. It's 57536345. If you're here and you're watching this and you want to take this quiz, this is the code that you have to enter into the website menti.com. And if you've done that, could you just let me know real quick so that I can know whether we can just start the quiz or not? Drop me maybe like a very quick yes if you've been able to log into the quiz. Okay, possibly there is nobody here, but that's okay. We can just do the quiz and do some revision through the quiz. And it is a Saturday afternoon, so I completely understand if nobody wants to be taking quizzes right now. But I'll still take us through all of the questions, and I will oh, hello Rolly. Nice to see you here. If you want to join the quiz, that is the code. It's 57536345. I will start the quiz in a minute, and you can take it, or we can just talk through the answers. Hello Navneet. Nice to have you here. We're doing a Menti quiz today, and that's the code 57536345. I'm gonna give whoever's here until I think 3:11, and then we'll start. Does that sound okay? let me know if you're already like logged into the quiz, so then we can maybe just start early. I think we have like 25 questions today or something, so that is a good set of questions. Really wants me to start right now. We will start very soon, Rory. I hope I'm saying your name right. Okay. It is still 3:10, but I think that has been enough time, probably. So I will go ahead and start it. I'm good. How are you? Okay, there seem to be some more people here. In case you've just come in, we're doing a Menti quiz. Go to menti.com. That's the code 57536345. Actually, I'm going to forget that code, so I'm just going to write it down in case more people join us somewhere in the middle, and then I have to repeat the code, but I don't remember it. 5753 6345. Right. Okay, and I'm back. It's good to hear that you're also good. Okay, I think we can start then. We're waiting for players, and we have 2. There's a really cute penguin and a really cute lion. Okay, I'm going to start now. So, it's a very classic question. Who's the author of this? Who's the author of that? And you have 30 seconds to answer it. So, oh, and you're already done. And both of you who are here got it right. It's Kushwan Singh. Good job on that. Let's get into the next question then. Hello, Sonia. Starting the countdown. And this is also who wrote question. And maybe you'll get this done also really fast, and you won't need 30 seconds. Good afternoon, Nishan. That was also very fast. Okay, so somebody said Shirley Tilson and somebody said Mary Shelley. I have to say I played like a little bit of a dirty trick on you. I tried to like put the Shelley sounding names everywhere in the options, so maybe you would get confused. That's just in case like in the future you can be a little bit more wary, you know. But yeah, the right answer is Shirley Tilson. She's the poet who wrote A Photograph. Mary Shelley is also a very famous author. She wrote Frankenstein. So that's also like something really cool if you want to check that out. So, okay, we're at the third question, and now we're away from the classic questions and into some odd ones. What is the relevance of the word portrait in the title, The Portrait of a Lady? I'm curious to know what you all think. And you've all voted? Okay, and you've told me that the story is a detailed pen portrait about a lady, which is exactly the right answer. Thank you. You're doing great. We're on question number 4. I think you'll also get this one right. Yes, now there are 3 of you. Nice to see the third person, whoever you are. But yeah, the lady in the title refers to the narrator's grandmother. Okay, question 5. Sorry Nishant, I just saw your questions. You want to know where to answer these questions? Okay, so you go to menti.com and you type in the code at the very top of the screen, which is 57536345, and then you should be able to join in. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if you can do that. Yeah, Sujal, I can wait for a moment. The code is 57536345. It's 1 second. Can you see my cursor? It's the very top of the screen over here. This one. And everyone who said that it's a love for learning music that the grandmother does not exhibit, you are absolutely right. Everything else is something that's key to her character in this story. Alright, Nishant. Okay, so it's working for you. And Sujal, is it working for you also? Okay. We're gonna go on to the next question. Hello. Question number 6 of 25. When did the poet's mother die? And the questions are basically mixed up. We'll have some from the lessons, some from the poems. So I try to do that because in the exam you'll basically have like all your lessons together. So it'll be like everything mixed up. Everyone has voted. Okay, and some people have said 12, some people have said 10, and some people have said 11. So this is the poem A Photograph, right, by Shirley Tilson, and the poet's mother dies 12 years ago, and we know that because the poet tells us in the very first verse that the mother is 12 years old in the photograph that the mother shows her, and then 2 verses later, the narrator says, oh, my mother has been dead as long as the girl in that photograph. So the girl was 12 years old, and so we know that the mother was also dead 12 years ago. So that's how we know that the poet's mother died 12 years ago. I hope that clarifies it for you. Sujal is actually Muskan. I'm guessing a lot of you are on like not your phones and things like that. So yeah, let me know your name so I can call you by your names and not somebody else's by accident. Hello, Achita. We have 15 more seconds, and this question seems to be taking you all some time. Generally you answer like with lots of time left. You have like 5 seconds. Wow, we're really reaching the end this time. Okay, 2 different answers that you are conflicted by, and it's a very understandable conflict. She's not praying instead, and she hates music. Why is it? Which one of these is it? And 6 of you have chosen she's not praying instead, which is the right answer in this case. So you know, in that particular scene, when the grandmother, the grandson comes back home, and the grandmother goes out and gathers all the women in the neighborhood, and she sings with them. It's very odd to the narrator specifically, because she's been praying all the time that the narrator has ever known her, right? Even when he returns home from being abroad for 5 years, she hugs him, and she's still whispering prayers under her breath. So when she stops praying to do this singing thing in the evening, that's very shocking for the narrator. And that's why the answer is she's not praying instead. Though it is also odd that she's singing, because in general she does say that she doesn't like music. But that isn't something that's actually directly addressed by the story. So that's why this is not the answer in this case. I hope that makes sense also. Yes, you got it correctly. Yes, I will wait for a couple of seconds. Muskan. I hope that's enough time. I'm going to go on to the next question, because we're running out of time very fast. I don't know how that's happening. Hello, Zakir. Are you here to join our quiz? Oh, this is a fun question. Name the literary device. You know, we pay so much attention to like literary devices in poems and things, but sometimes we don't pay attention to them in stories. But they're also, they can be really cool. So oh, this is giving you some trouble also, it seems. Okay, 3 people said metaphor and 3 people said simile. That is an even split. Okay, let's talk about why it's not a metaphor and why it's a simile. I can understand the confusion between the two, because, well, comparison, right? That's how we've been trained to think about both of these devices. A metaphor is for comparison, a simile is for comparison. The difference really is that a simile kind of directly compares two things. So in this instance, it says, she was like the winter landscape in the mountains. So that connecting word, that like, it kind of directly does the comparison for us, right? If it was a metaphor, what would happen is something like, she was the winter landscape in the mountains. So that connecting word that's doing the comparison for us would be missing. So when a comparison involves words like or as, then it generally is going to be a simile. I hope that's clear to all of you, and that next time maybe you'll be able to see that it's a simile. Leaderboard. Muskan, I actually haven't like put up a leaderboard. I didn't really know if it was very necessary, because I thought if you were going to be revising, then a good way to like do it would be to see what answers are getting picked, and so focus on the question and the answer rather than like scores and things like that. I know scores can be like important when it comes to exams, but I thought maybe we should just think about this in terms of focusing on the text. And yeah, I hope that's okay, so that we could all just have some fun together instead of necessarily feeling like we need to compete. Okay, question 9. So now that you know it's a simile, explain the comparison that's happening. What is this comparison, right? The narrator just suddenly tells us that his grandmother is like the winter landscapes in the mountains. And we have to use the context in that paragraph, everything else the narrator has told us, to make sense of this comparison, because the comparison isn't immediately understandable. But all of you got it right. Yeah, it's because she is calm and peaceful. That is why that comparison is being made. The white, peaceful landscape of the wintry mountains and the grandmother. And also, like, something to do with the way the two look, because the grandmother is also wearing white and has white hair, and winter in the mountains is snow caps. Yeah. So, question number 10. Yeah, you did get it right. So we've switched the, I mean, well, the poem. I should probably not be telling you that and just letting you see what it is. We have like 5 seconds left. I'm really enjoying the questions that are pushing you all to the last second, because then I'm figuring out, what's stopping you for a moment, what's maybe not stopping you, what you find easy, what you find a little bit more difficult. Okay, so this is something that you seem to have maybe found difficult. One person got it right. It's labored ease. Sorry if you can hear that sound. I live somewhere that airplanes exist a lot, so yeah. So why is it labored ease? That has to do with what an oxymoron is. Do you know what an oxymoron is? If you do, let me know in the chat. I'm looking at it. Yeah, Nishant, I can definitely explain an oxymoron. Yeah, Rowley's got it right though. An oxymoron is when two words that are the opposite of each other are put together in a phrase. So, for instance, here we have labored ease, and labor means something that's difficult and takes a lot of effort, but ease means something that's easy, and both of those words are the opposite of each other. But here, both of those words have been put together to make a new kind of meaning in a phrase. And so that's what an oxymoron is. I hope that is clear. Okay, so next one. No. Okay. Yeah. Should be loading now. Okay, what breaks the last common link between the grandmother and the grandson? And you've chosen all sorts of different things. I can understand the confusion with this one, because really the relationship between the grandmother and the grandson is sort of falling apart over time, right? But even though they move to the city, what happens when they move to the city is that they're still living in the same room. And so in the beginning, the grandmother is still trying to connect to the grandson, and they're still trying to spend some time together, and all of that is happening. But when the grandson goes to university and the grandson moves into a different room, what happens is that even that little bit of time that they're spending together falls apart. So that physical space, which was kind of keeping them a little bit close to each other, is taken away, and with that the last like bit of association that's there between them also falls apart, and then after that the grandmother basically just sort of retreats into herself. She sits alone, she's spinning, she's feeding the sparrows, but that's all she does. And so that's why the right answer is when the grandson moves into a different room. It's when the very last link breaks down. Okay. It's okay, Nishant, you can get the next question right. Okay, I'm seeing that like a little bit of a pattern with the whole like poetry thing. The poem seems to be something that you all have like, you're taking a little bit more time, and maybe the questions and the answers aren't quite coming out right for you. I'm not sure why that is, but let me know if there's like a specific reason that the poem isn't the one that's working out for you. You're doing a lot like, you're finding the prose questions a lot easier, I'm noticing. But yeah, in this case, the memory that the photograph in the poem evokes for the narrator is that of her mother's laughter. When the narrator's mother looks at the photograph, the narrator's mother remembers her trip to the sea and her childhood. But the narrator, when the narrator looks at the photograph, remembers her memory with her mother, in which her mother tells her the story about her childhood and her mother laughs. So that's the memory that the narrator of the poem remembers. So that's the difference between the narrator and the narrator's mother in this case. And I hope that makes a little bit more sense for you now. I am from Tamil Nadu. Okay. The next question should be loading. This is question 14. So this is another literary device question. Hi Katie. Oh Roli, I see you've asked about the leaderboard. I mentioned this earlier, but I didn't like put up the leaderboard because I thought we'll just try to have fun. Okay, literary device. Transient feat is a transferred epithet. Does anyone know what a transferred epithet is? Today we'll be doing 25 questions. Nishant. Okay, 2 of you got transferred epithet right, and I'm going to tell you what a transferred epithet is, just in case you maybe don't know, because alliteration and metaphor and transferred epithets seem to have gotten confused. I'm glad none of you chose oxymoron though. Now you know like that an oxymoron is two opposing words put together in a phrase. So this is definitely not an oxymoron because it's transient feat and those aren't antonyms of each other. And alliteration is when two words start with the same sound. So transient teeth, for example, would be an alliteration because it has the same t-t sound that the two words start with. A metaphor, as I told you, is when a comparison is being made between two things, but not so bluntly as to have like a like or an as in it. It's like she was the winter landscape. So here it's not a metaphor because no comparison like that is happening. So here really you could have kind of answered this question by eliminating the other things if you'd sort of known what the others were. I hope that now you kind of might have a better idea of what the others are. So in the future, if there are questions like this, you can sort of eliminate things as you go. But this one is a transferred epithet, which means, so here we have the phrase transient feat, right? Transient feat. So the poet here is actually calling, transient means temporary, and the poet is saying that, well, this is going to give away an answer to another question, but it's okay. The poet is saying that the human beings in the poem are sort of temporary, their lives are temporary, and they will be swept away really fast. Like they will change very fast and they will die very fast. But the way it's phrased is transient feat, which makes it sound like it's the feet that are temporary, except it's not. The feet actually are a sort of stand-in for the human being themselves and for human lives. So here the sort of adjective is put in with another word instead, rather than the one that it's actually meant to describe. So here it's feet instead of person or human. And so a situation like this, when an adjective is being transferred from one word to the other, but we still know that it refers to something else, is a transferred epithet. I hope that's a little bit clear. And yes, I do not speak Hindi because I am from the south. I do understand Hindi and how it's spoken, but I can't really speak it. Yeah. Okay. Next question. Hello Aarti, question 15. You can join us on the quiz here if you want. Okay, well, I already told you, so this shouldn't be very difficult. Hello Sonia. Okay, what does terribly transient feat mean? Everyone has voted. Oh! Okay. Well, it actually doesn't mean that the feet will disappear soon. It means that the humans will soon change and die. As I was trying to tell you with the previous slide, and maybe I wasn't clear, but I'll try to explain it again, and let me know if it's not coming across so I can do it in a different way maybe. Here, when the poet says transient feat, the poet isn't using feat to refer to just the feet. The poet is referring to human beings themselves, and the poet means to say that humans will change and die, not just that the feet will disappear. So the transience, which is the temporariness, is associated with the feet in words, but in meaning it refers to the human beings. And so the answer here is the humans will soon change and die, and that is what a transferred epithet does, right? It takes that association between transient and feat and it actually makes it mean something else. Does that make some sense? Really, I'm afraid I really can't speak Hindi. But if I ever get some practice in, then I will come back and try it out on all of you, and you can listen to my terrible grammar and you can laugh at me. What does veritable bedlam of chirruping mean? This is such a nice phrase. It has so much in it. Okay, um, 4 people have gotten this wrong. So, veritable bedlam, veritable sort of is just a word that kind of emphasizes the bedlam of chirruping. So, it's like definite sort of bedlam of chirruping. So, a bedlam is a chaotic place, right? There's a lot of things happening, so much things happening that you can't really pay attention to everything properly. So, that kind of chaos is what bedlam means. So, here the right answer is very chaotic chirrups. So, warm, loving chirrups is not the answer in this case, but that's okay. Okay. This is actually the kind of question that, is fun. It sort of gives you a quote from a lesson, and then it tells you to understand what's going on in the quote, to analyze what's going on in the quote. Okay, we have 4 people who got the right answer, which is that this particular line highlights the change in the grandmother-grandson relationship. I can see why you would think, though, that this means that this line emphasizes the loneliness of the grandmother. It does suggest that she's only finding happiness with her sparrows, but the fact that the line starts with "even on the first day of my arrival" places emphasis on the fact that this is the first day that the grandson is back after 5 years of separation from the grandmother. So all of this aside, even despite this, it's supposed to be a special day, right? She's supposed to be very happy to see her grandson again after 5 years. But even despite that, even though that's supposed to be a very happy day for her because of her grandson being there, her happiness that day is found instead in the sparrows, which says that really she doesn't find her happiness in her relationship with her grandson anymore. So that's how this sentence sort of emphasizes the change that's happened in the grandmother-grandson relationship. I got you, Nishant, no worries. Do you all like poetic devices and things like that? Okay. 2 people say the 2 girl cousins and 2 people say the cardboard shows. Now, the next question will sort of take us into what this poetic device is. So, I'll just let you answer that first, and then I'll tell you why that's the poetic device. I think it's the next question at least. Yeah. Yes, personification. So 4 of you got this right, which, okay. So yeah, the reason that the cardboard shows is the only poetic device in this particular setup is that the cardboard shows is personification. It's an example of personification, which means that some object that is inanimate or some object that doesn't really have life per se, as we know animals and humans do, is given a characteristic that is associated with an animate object. So here a cardboard can't really show you something, but it's phrased as though the cardboard is showing you something. So imbuing the cardboard with that sort of capacity to show something, which a cardboard can't typically do, that's what personification is. So the cardboard shows is our example of personification in that line, when the two girls went paddling, the cardboard shows yada yada. So yeah, it's not the two girl cousins in that line, because the two girl cousins is just something that's describing the story of that particular photograph. It's not really any particular device that's being used there. Oh, thank you, Anshika. That's really nice to know. Hello. All of you got this right? Yeah, telling a rosary means that you're going through the beads of the rosary and you're saying your prayers as you do, and you're counting your prayers using the beads. Have you seen a rosary? There's like a rosary lying right opposite me right now. Which is why I asked that. We're nearing the end of our questions. There are like very few left. Okay, 3 people got this. Oh, I've made a mistake. I'm very sorry. I haven't selected a right answer for this already. But the right answer is the second one, which is between unchanging nature and ever-changing lives. The contrast between the sea and the human feet that the poet draws is basically to say, oh, look at the sea, which hasn't changed in all of these years. So look at nature, which hasn't changed at all across all this time. But look at the feet of my mother and her cousins, and my mother is dead now. So those feet no longer exist as they were. She no longer exists as she was. And so human lives are changing so fast and so quick. So the right answer is the second one, and I'm sorry for not choosing the right one. I will try not to make a mistake like that again. Question 22. Okay, some of you have chosen the right answer and some of you have chosen different answers. A rhyme scheme is basically, trying to figure out if each line of the poem rhymes with the next line of the poem, or which line of the poem it rhymes with. In the case of a photograph, there really isn't any rhyming pattern at all to the entire poem. So this is an example of blank verse, which is a situation in which a poem isn't trying to rhyme the ends of its lines. It's just going with whatever flow it wants to go with. So that's blank verse, and that's what this poem is, an example of blank verse. Question 23, and we are very near the end. this is also taking you all some time. Okay, all of you have picked different things. Alright, so let's get into this one a little bit because partly because I really like it, but also partly because this is kind of important to understand the form and the structure of the poem well, right? So a photograph is divided into 3 verses. In each verse, there is something different that the poet focuses on. In the very first verse, the poet is talking about the narrator's mother's past. And in the second verse, it's the past in which the narrator and her mother are together. And in the third verse, we move into the narrator's present instead, when the narrator's mother is dead, and so the narrator stops talking to us, says there's not really anything much more to say because my mother is dead. So that makes me very sad, and that's sort of how the final bit ends. It tells me my net is bad. Can you hear me and see me? I hope you can. Okay, you can hear me. Thanks, Shreya. Okay, I guess my net is not that bad then. So yeah, as I was saying, there are 3 verses to this poem, and the third verse is the narrator's present, and in fact these 3 verses are split up like this to draw our focus to the fact that each of these verses takes place at a different point of time. So this is something that if you go back and you read the poem, you can pay attention to it. You can see how each verse goes from one point of time to the next point of time. It leaps in time forward, and then it finally lands us in the present, and it stops there. So that's why the final verse of a photograph focuses on the narrator's present. Alright, see you, Nishant. Yes, I do take class every day, by the way. Sorry to hear your net got exhausted, but maybe you can catch up with the rest of these questions later. Good evening, Net. I'm good. We're just finishing up a quiz in case you want to join us. You can also go back and look at it later. Okay, why are the grandmother's stories about playing in her childhood like fables of prophets? So we know the narrator's grandmother tells the grandchildren stories, right? And she tells them stories about playing in her childhood, and she tells them stories about fables of prophets. And the narrator tells us both of them are like each other. And the reason the narrator tells us this is not actually because they're both enjoyable to listen to, but because the narrator finds it very difficult to imagine his grandmother as a person who was ever young. And when he looks at his grandmother, all he can see is this old, serious little lady. And so he thinks, my God, she could never have played games in her childhood. It doesn't seem entirely real. It seems a little detached from reality. So he compares it to fables of prophets, which also seem like fictional stories that are detached from reality and not entirely part of the world, or not entirely something that you can completely believe. And with that, we're at our last question. And this is a sort of bonus question. I want us to kind of think about both of these texts, portrait of a lady and photograph, and can we see like commonalities between the two of them? Some things that link both of the stories, because I mean the story and the poem, both of them are actually in your textbook. They're sort of put together in a kind of unit, right? There's a reason for that. There are some ideas that they sort of talk to each other about. And I'm giving you a bit longer to sort of type out an answer to this. You can also type it in the chat box if you want. That's also okay. Okay, loss of someone. You can't understand the question. Okay, I lost all of those very fast, but okay, they're back. Youth, nature of change, fantastic, a lot of F's, and can't understand the question. How to do this one? Okay, so Muskan, are you the one who said that you can't understand the question? Maybe. Okay, so this question is just asking you to think about the story and the poem and think about ideas in both of these things that seem similar, that seem the same. So somebody said the loss of someone, which is accurate, yeah. Loss is something that both of these stories, both of these texts think about, right? In one, the grandmother dies, in one, the mother is dead. So loss of someone is a theme that's in both of these texts. The nature of change is also the right answer. It's just not matching here because of the way I wrote my answer, but the nature of change is actually a great answer. In the first story, the portrait of a lady, we see how the relationship between the grandmother and the grandson changes over time, and in the second one, in the poem, a photograph, we see how the narrator's mother changes over time and the sorrow that brings. So the nature of change definitely connects both of these. Another couple of things that connect them is memory, because in a photograph, the narrator is very clearly thinking about her mother and thinking about her mother's memory, and in the portrait of a lady, the narrator is going back in time and telling us all of these things about his grandmother. So memory is definitely something that's in both of these stories, and family is also something that both of these stories think about in two different ways, actually. We have the portrait of a lady, which tells us about a relationship with a family member that sort of slowly falls apart, and we have a photograph in which someone's mother dies and the narrator looks back and is incredibly sad about it. So two different depictions of family also. But yeah, those are a couple of themes that both of the texts sort of think about, and okay. So Muskan has written loss of someone. Got it, Muskan. So yeah, that's also right, yeah. So that was the last question. I was hoping that we could end on sort of bringing these two stories together and thinking about them. But we are done with the quiz for today. Thank you for being here and revising with me. I hope you had some fun with the quiz and that some of the questions were interesting and made you think. I actually don't have the leaderboard up on this, so I can't show it to you, I'm afraid. Oh no, you said please. So I can't put it up because it's a pre-saved setting that I need to have, but maybe next time I can sort of put up a scoreboard at the very end so that everyone can sort of see how they've done or something. Oh, I'm glad you had fun, Shreya. A lot of F is very wrong, pal. I'm sorry to let you know. But that brings us kind of to the end of our session. I will be here every day of the week except Sunday from 3 to 4 p.m. taking English lessons, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays for grade 12, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for grade 11. We will be having more revisions. We will be also going to the lessons and doing them together. So if you want to come and join me for those, please do. Thank you for being here. I hope you liked it, and if you did, then leave a like or subscribe to the channel and leave some comments. Thank you, and I will see you again on